Well, welcome everyone. Good evening, and thank you for participating in our virtual meeting this evening. As you all know, the city of Shaker Heights is quickly moving into the final stage of the preparation of our recreation strategic plan. This plan will really set um, that will be the guidelines for investments that we make in recreation in the city for years and even decades to come. It's a comprehensive study that will enable us to better attract and retain residents in our city by offering the same quality of services in recreation as we do in all the other services that we provide in the city. As you know, we've had hundreds of people participate in providing us information, and the team and our consultants to put together the plan. That involved in-person meetings, pop-up meetings, remote meetings like this evening. Tonight, you'll see a little bit of the fruits of your efforts, and you'll see some draft site plans that are based upon the input and feedback that we've received from residents across the city. And you'll be able to share some of your preferences as we get into things. So with that, again, thank you for joining us, and I will turn it back to you, Kara.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm the city's principal planner in the planning department and the project manager for the recreation strategic plan. I'm just going to share a couple of logistics before we get started on this. This is a meeting, as the mayor mentioned, is in the webinar format, which means you can see city staff and the consultant team, but we can't see or hear you. The chat and raise hand options are also disabled. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, please click on the Q&A button on your screen and type your question. We will answer those after the presentation is completed. If you're having a problem or if this doesn't work for you, the last slide of the presentation will have my contact information, or you can go to the city's website at shakerheightsoh.gov/recreation-plan. I will also drop that into the chat, which you can see as well. This meeting is being recorded and we will be posting that on the city website. With us tonight are the mayor, Jeff DeMuth, our interim recreation director, John Doyle, our parks and facilities manager, Colleen Jackson, our chief DEI officer, and Joyce Braverman, our planning director. That's our project team. And also present is Laura Engelhardt, our economic development director. So I'll pass this off to Colin Mevis with MKSK, our consultant team, to introduce her team.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us after a holiday weekend. Here with me tonight, well, first, I'm Colin Mavis. I am the associate principal with MKSK and team lead for the Cleveland office. With me tonight is Michael Mears, one of our project planners, and Abby Lawless, also a project planner out of our Cleveland office. And Michael is not only a planner, but also a resident of Shaker, which I'm sure he will allude to throughout the presentation. A very proud resident. All right. This is our first of 2 public engagements for this round of the Recreation Strategic Plan. We have a virtual meeting tonight, as well as our in-person meeting on Wednesday. For tonight's agenda, what we're looking at is how did we get here and where do we want to go? So we'll be covering what is some of the plan background and what is the purpose. Why have we gathered to collect all of this information? Go through some of our discovery analysis and provide a summary of our overall engagement and community visioning process to date. From there, we'll be kind of showing the feedback loops and the cyclical nature of this process, how we receive this information, how we went out into the community and gained all of the feedback in order to feed into the design concepts that you'll see tonight. That's part of our strategic planning process. We have 2 versions for each park that we'll be taking a look at and comparing and contrasting how those visions look within the space of the park. We'll then be going through some of our next steps as we're starting to get towards the end of this initial planning process, and then open it up for a question and answer session. And so just to go back to the purpose of why are we doing this, why are we here? This is a strategic plan to develop a long-term recreation plan that prioritizes improvements to select parks and recreation facilities to provide high quality amenities for all neighborhoods and residents. And as part of that, we developed goals and objectives to make sure that we were always staying focused throughout this project on what the community needs, including evaluating each facility and its unique context, creating a vision and a plan that serves the diverse populations and needs of this community, providing community facilities that have the capability for gathering and bringing people together, and making this an actionable framework that prioritizes next steps and sets us up for the future operational and implementation plans. And so that's where we are today. The current plan is straddling 24 and 25 as far as its schedule goes. And then we're looking at the visioning and framework, going through the engagement and needs assessment, and working out the initial conceptual facilities plans for each of the strategically located parks. Subsequent plans will look at phasing, financing, and partnerships for best practices. And this is, as I mentioned, it's a 12-month schedule that we're coming towards the end of, or in the last quarter of, that has gone from project launch through discovery and analysis, a robust community vision and strategic planning process that took place across the entire summer and through the fall, really trying to get feedback from all types of users of the parks. And then where we are today is here to report out on that and how that has informed the concepts that you'll see tonight. And so as part of that initial process, that discovery and analysis phase, we looked at existing conditions. We took an inventory and we did plan reviews. So looking at all of the existing park facilities and evaluating their current state of condition, as well as reviewing that against previous plans and making sure we were aligning with past efforts. Looking at recreation trends. So we did this with our partner Pros, where data was collected on emerging market trends and trends for populations that match the demographics of the Shaker Heights community to see where there are opportunities to increase facilities or maybe start to sunset some facilities that are on the increase. And then finally, community benchmarking, again, looking at Shaker Heights as it stands among its peer communities and seeing where there are opportunities for investments and alignments that could really kind of build out the recreation facilities in this community. And here you're seeing, we did an assessment of, as part of that, of all of the open spaces and citywide parks, as well as the school district owned properties, to really get a full picture of what's available within the community for recreation. As you can see here, just basically delving into all of the data as part of that process, really figuring out what's there today and where do we need to move towards. And so the summary of those findings, Shaker has a diverse set of park and recreation offerings. They're spread throughout the community. There are changing recreation trends, demands, and facilities have aged, resulting in the need for upgrade or investment. The division of city and school controlled facilities, while sometimes may create challenges, it also creates great opportunities for shared uses. And compared to its peer communities, Shaker Heights was assessed as stable, well-performing Parks and Rec department and has moderate room for growth still possible. And so once we collected all of that data, we started to move into what was our community or engagement and community visioning phase. And what this involved was a variety of different groups that we worked with to help to bring these vision plans or these next concept plans that you'll see together. That included our advisory group. This is a group that worked with us throughout the process, guiding some of the process in terms of where facility needs, what were they seeing on the ground. And these are individual volunteers that provided their perspective, provided feedback from their unique perspectives. We also worked with stakeholder groups. So these consisted of individuals, organizations representing recreational facilities, civic uses, community associations, or groups such as seniors or underserved populations in order to get the most well-rounded perspectives and feedback that we could within the time span of this project. And finally, Shaker residents. So that's who we're talking to tonight. That's who we've been talking to through all of our public engagement and through our pop-ups and through the online website. This is where we wanted to get your feedback on what you want to see for your community in the years to come. And so through that was roughly about a 6-month process. We provided opportunities and thought outreach through a number of platforms, either online or in person. So through the project website or the mapping activity and the vision board, we were able to get digital information shared from users that visited the sites. And then there were also in-person engagement opportunities, either through the advisory group, pop-up events, the stakeholder groups, or the public meeting, another one of which is happening this week. And so as part of that project website, this is where we collected all of the open statements through the vision board. So what did people want to see for this community? What did they really think would be the direction they would want to see recreation going? As well as a mapping activity that allowed individuals to identify things within each of the parks that they would like to see improved, kept, or innovated. And these online engagements mirrored what was able to, or what was done at the pop-up engagement. So the same types of feedback, whether it be a vision board or commenting directly on the plans for the parks, was available at a variety of pop-up events, 22 in all, across the community, to really get a robust engagement with community members. And you can see here just the breadth and amount of interest there has been in the plan. 200 posts shared on the vision board, and then over 600 thumbs up for votes that people really wanted to make sure became part of that plan.
Thanks, Cullen. And thanks for everybody for joining in. I'm going to pick up here and take over from Cullen and talk about some of the results we heard during this broad engagement outreach that we did over the summer. Here you can see a lot of the comments that were posted on the vision board both in person and also virtually. And so what we did as part of this process is we collected all that data, scoured it to really sort of highlight what were some of the key elements and key features or recommendations that sort of popped up consistently throughout those vision board posts. You could see a rec center was the strongest item identified, with other things like outdoor pools, ice rink, and pickleball being some other popular mentions. And in the corner, some other common things that came up, from dog parks to additional playgrounds. So really what we tried to do here was just gather all that feedback that people participated over the summer and see what was popping up consistently and over time. And then in addition to the vision exercise, what we also had was a mapping exercise. And here, as Cullen mentioned, we gave people the opportunity to get a little bit more specific about what they wanted to see in each of the individual park sites that were identified as part of the plan. Those included the Shaker Heights Middle School, Thornton Park, the STJ Community Building Quadrant, and Chelton Park. And then as part of this process, based on community feedback, we've also added Hildana Park as part of the recommendations included here. And what we really wanted to ask people here is what they wanted to keep, what they thought maybe could be updated, and what were some innovative or big ideas they thought maybe could happen at one of these sites throughout the city of Shaker. So here's an example of what the results for that look like for Thornton Park. What we did is we had a lot of different pins and notes that people mentioned about things they liked and they disliked, and things they wanted to see improved. For example, here you can see everybody liked the sledding hill and thought it was one of the best ones around, but then also thought the pool and the rink are unique assets, for the community and for the city of Shaker, but also the possibility of maybe including a pool renovation. So we did this same sort of analysis and exercise for each one of the 4 sites as we worked through our engagement exercises. And, sort of real quickly summarizing what that looked like across the board, some of the common themes that popped up were people wanted to see opportunities for indoor recreation, ways to enable year-round use and activities, for different sports and different events. As part of that, also thinking about programming and spaces for teens and seniors, and maybe those not, active in a specific sport. Also, focusing on that idea of Thornton being a real key asset for the community, thinking about updating the pool and ice rink to better match, with some of the uses and needs that those facilities may contain. Field availability and conditions or maintenance was a concern. Obviously, weather conditions can impact games and practices. So how can we make sure that our fields are available and ready after a storm or an unforeseen weather event? The city and school facility comments that Colin mentioned earlier, came up throughout our engagement exercises. And really, we think this creates some challenges, but also a lot of opportunities for shared facilities over the summer. And then last, but certainly not least, the mayor mentioned, the Shaker provides a real high quality of service and amenities throughout the community in a lot of different ways. And really, most people thought that our recreation facilities should, represent Shaker in that same way and really be, the high class and high character facilities that we're used to having throughout the city of Shaker Heights. So what we did, as Colin mentioned throughout the summer, as part of gathering all this feedback, is leading into our first public meeting, as I did all these pop-up exercises and events, both online and in person. We took everybody's comments, whether it's that people wanted to see a pool renovation, thought the rink was a unique asset, or really, love the idea of a sledding hill. And we took everybody's comments and combine those into actual physical pieces or actual physical recommendations, whether it be a basketball court, a series of pickleball courts, outdoor pools, facilities, you name it. And what we asked residents to do at the first public meeting was to design their site. Each attendee got an opportunity to design 2 sites using all of these pieces and features that had been mentioned throughout these engagement components throughout the summer. So they could take those pieces, move them in and around the site with their neighbors, with other attendees, to really try to figure out how these ideas could translate into physical recommendations on each one of the 4 sites. So here's a sample of what that looked like for Chelton Park. You can see people here looked at putting, baseball, maintaining on the site, maybe including a large playground, adding basketball, expanding parking lot, things like that. And what we've done is we've taken pictures and documented all of these different recommendations to really highlight what were some of the existing amenities that people wanted to keep, or the proposed amenities that people were really looking at potentially adding at each one of these sites. So for STJ, some of the ideas were converting the existing field to a multi-purpose turf field, maybe keeping the playground or moving the playground, or potentially adding an outdoor program or recreation center on the corner of Lee Road. For Thornton Park, the sledding hill remained in every scenario, not to be surprised based on the feedback we heard. But other scenarios for Thornton reflected, the need for an ice rink, or the thought that people liked the ice rink at this location. So what people looked at was, do we add 2 rinks? Do we add multiple rinks? Do we look at, keeping the pool at Thornton, and what other facilities, if we do add a new rink or add a new pool, could potentially be fit in and around those 2 spaces? And last, but certainly not least, was the one site we looked at was the largest of the 4, which is the Shaker Heights Middle School. And for this one, all the different recreation amenities or ideas that people sort of suggested that we converted into these individual puzzle pieces was used at this site in a variety of different ways. People would place a pool on this site, potentially a new ice rink on this site. People looked at a field house, a recreation center, additional courts and playgrounds, and even a dog park as potential options or suggestions of what could be done or what could potentially, be utilized at the middle school site for Shaker Heights recreation. So that's what we did, as Colin mentioned, throughout the summer as part of our engagement, to really kind of build this sort of community vision as we lead to this, plan creation, and really start to think about what our strategic planning and what our design concepts for each site. So what I'm going to do now is quickly, at a high level, run through each one of these different sites and what we've done to sort of take that information, take those exercises to really kind of create some site plans and some visions for each one of these sites. So the first site I'll touch on, as we mentioned, is Chelton Park. This site, located along Lee Road, is the smallest of the 4 sites, or one of the smallest of the 4 sites. And one of the key things here in terms of existing conditions is the bus depot site is currently being looked at as a potential opportunity for relocation. And if this does happen, it does provide a lot of opportunities to rethink recreation and the amenities that are taking place at Chelton Park. So for option 1 at Chelton Park, what we've done is building off the recommendations from the Lee Road Action Plan. We've highlighted these mixed-use residential buildings, creating that nice street wall and sort of active street edge along Lee Road that were suggested in the Lee Road Action Plan. But as part of that, what we've tried to do is open up those 2 buildings to the street, to the neighborhood, to create this plaza and gateway, really connecting Chelton Park from the Lee Road and from the street all the way through to the Moreland neighborhood, east and west, and really providing an opportunity to make this site feel active and welcoming from Lee Road and from those buildings. The Plaza Gateway area provides a place to have performance spaces, activation, potential retail spill-out spaces for cafes or other activities happening in the building. Built around that neighborhood plaza and gateways is a series of different recreation spaces, from multi-purpose lawn spaces along Hampstead, a new playground, additional pavilion and grill area, and then also a splash pad. In the second option for Chelton, we've done similar to what the first option suggested, is in maintaining that street wall and that sort of urban edge along Lee Road, really trying to activate that street with mixed-use buildings. Again, providing that opening in the neighborhood plaza and gateway for a variety of different uses and activations, letting the buildings spill out into the park and into the space. Here, what we've tried to do is minimize the impact for parking on the site as much as possible, and really try to tuck it under the buildings as much as we can. That way we can open up as much park and recreation space to the west of those buildings as possible, really maximizing the multi-purpose lawn space for events or for other games and practices, but also including the destination playground, the splash pad, and in this option, an additional basketball court, as some of the items that we heard from residents they would like to see in this sort of neighborhood scale park just outside the Moreland neighborhood. So with that, you can see option 1 and option 2 side by side. And as part of this presentation, and to try to make this as interactive as possible, we're going to have a poll here to let you provide some feedback and sort of let us know which one of these 2 options really you get excited about and which ones you would prefer.
The one who can, it looks like we've had about a third of the people on this call weigh in, picking out whether you like option 1 or option 2. Got about 10 people have answered, 11, 12. Okay, people are getting in there. Looks like I'm going to leave it open for a couple more seconds for the handful of people who haven't weighed in. Again, the first option has a playground, multi-purpose lawn, splash pad, and a pavilion and a grill area. The second option has a playground, multi-purpose lawn, splash pad, and basketball. Okay, I'm going to give it about 5 more seconds and I'm going to close the poll. I'll share the results in a minute. Okay, here we go. I'm going to close the poll. I'm going to share the results. Out of the 17 people who weighed in, 5 or 29% prefer option 1 with the pavilion grill area, and 12 of the 17 preferred the option with the basketball. I'm going to stop sharing so you can continue.
Great, thanks, Kara. And thank you to everybody participating. As mentioned with all the other engagement exercises, we're going to take all of this feedback and really sort of utilize it as we sort of build the plan and the recommendations moving forward. So now we're going to move on just north of the Chelton site to the STJ Community Building Quadrant. This is the area in and around the library that includes the colonnade along the corner of Lee and Van Aken, and also the multi-purpose field along Chagrin Boulevard. We think this area has a lot of existing open space that could be repurposed for recreation. So that was one of the things we really looked at when trying to fit items in and around the buildings that exist on site. So for STJ on option one, again, building off of some of the recommendations included in the Lee Road Action Plan, we're showing here a two-story recreation center with indoor basketball courts just to the north of the STJ building. This recommendation here, this option includes a renovated STJ building. So the idea here is to create a sort of indoor recreation center utilizing the existing building, but then building an addition to that building to the north at the corner of Lee and Van Aken to really provide those indoor spaces for seniors and teams and other programming and other activities. Adjacent to that building, we're proposing a new playground between the public library and this new proposed recreation center. In addition to that, also looking at adding a half-court basketball court where the existing playground currently is, and then also converting the existing soccer field to a regulation side multi-purpose turf field, to really sort of focus on that idea of having fields and spaces that could be utilized, as many days of the years as possible without, being impacted by weather or other, events. And then for the second option is very similar to the first, a new playground and the regulation size sort of multi-purpose field are also included in this option, along with a story walk that sort of loops people in and around the site. The difference with this option here is we've removed the STJ footprint and really sort of maximizing building a new building here. Same sort of scenario, a two-story recreation center with indoor basketball, fitness facilities, multi-purpose rooms, meeting areas, weight rooms, other studios, and spaces for the community. But in this option, what we've looked at is, what could we do if the STJ was not there? How could we maximize that footprint to get a sort of different building layout, and different potential uses and different sort of look and amenities with that new building renovation. So here again, like the first option, you can see option 1 and 2 side by side. The one on the left has a new recreation center, but keeps STJ as a renovated building and doing sort of an adaptive reuse of that structure. The section option on the left does not keep STJ, but instead builds a brand new two-story recreation center with those indoor facilities from scratch. So like the first option, we want to take your pulse and sort of give you an opportunity to provide feedback on which one of these two options you would prefer.
And as a reminder, option 1 includes a half basketball court, and both options include basketball indoors in both of those options.
Yeah, and some of the differences between these, there's very similar, but the new building, does provide some more flexibility in site design and layout, without having to work around the existing constraints of the STJ building, while the other one provides the opportunity for adaptive reuse of the existing structure, which was the former library. Nope, Kara, I think you're muted, but we could probably.
You could probably guess that I'm saying a couple more seconds to take the poll. Okay, it looks like we've kind of ended for people who were going to comment. I'm going to end the poll. Oh, one more popped in there at the last second. Okay, you have one more second, people. All right, I'm going to end the poll, share the results. Of the 16 people that weighed in, 7 prefer the new recreation and renovated STJ, and 2 prefer the new recreation center, which demolishes STJ.
Great. Okay, moving on to some of the larger sites, including Thornton Park. Obviously, we all know this is one of the key sites in the city of Shaker and has been for a while, including the pool and the ice rink. But we know that, the ice rink may require some significant capital investment in the next 5 years. So really what we're looking at this one is, how can we phase in recommendations that keeps a lot of the existing amenities that people love at this location, with also providing, those needs for future residents, and future members of the Shaker community. So for option 1 for Thornton Park, one of the big first moves here is looking at building a new 1.5 sheet ice rink facility, where the current existing tennis courts are in the northeast quadrant of the site. When we say 1.5 sheet ice rink, this means a 1 full-size regulation ice rink and then a small sort of studio rink, half-size rink or somewhere around there to provide additional flexibility and options for programming, whether it's learn to skate or other events there. The ice rink includes a lot of new features, including a multi-purpose room, new locker rooms, bleachers, concessions, and other locker rooms specifically dedicated to hockey, and then also locker rooms in this option specifically dedicated to the pool. As part of this option, one of the things we were exploring was the reuse of the existing ice rink building to create sort of an indoor turf or indoor court kind of field house once the new facility would become online. In addition to that, you can see an upgraded outdoor pool facility using the existing footprint as much as possible to upgrade the existing pool and its facilities. In addition to that, keeping a lot of the same elements that exist on the site, from the sand volleyball court to the sledding hill, and then also sort of relocation of a basketball court and a skate park to existing amenities that currently take place at Thornton. In addition, here we've also sort of suggested maybe potentially a new playground with other outdoor water play or splash pad area, so people could participate in those sort of those hot fall months when the pool may be closed. So Thornton option 2 also shows the new 1.5 sheet ice rink facility in the same location. But with this option, one of the big moves, in addition to sort of building that new rink, was the suggestion of potentially moving the pool facility to another site in Shaker that we'll touch on later. In this option, we removed the potential renovation of the existing rink and created an area for new additional courts, or to bring back some of the courts that were currently there where the current, or where the new rink is being proposed. So moving the pool allows us to sort of reconfigure the parking lot on this site and really sort of shift things around a little bit. So you can see we've kind of reconfigured the boundary to include this future development site along Warrensville Center Road. The idea here is that we don't necessarily need the parking that exists there. It can shift to the internal sort of site between a proposed new playground and the new ice rink facility. So the idea here is, can that future site be open up to development for long-term opportunities in and around the Van Aken district and along Warrensville Center Road. So you can see here the two side by side. Both of them include the 1.5 sheet ice rink facility in that northeastern corner. The rest of the amenities are sort of spread out differently between the two, with the option on the left exploring the idea of reusing the existing rink, whereas the one on the right, the idea of bringing back those courts and moving the pool to the middle school site to really sort of open up the potential for future development between the residential towers along Warrensville Road. So again, Kara's going to be nice enough to pop up another poll for us to get feedback, and some of your thoughts and opinions on which option you prefer.
We're continuing to weigh in. Got about half of the people who weighed in. There's a few more. Give another 10, 15 seconds for people to weigh in. Okay, another last call, everybody. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. So the majority, by about 2 to 1, preferred keeping the ice rink at the pool at this location. And then the others, 5 out of the 16, preferred keeping the ice rink at Thornton Park but moving the pool.
Great. Well, thanks everybody. We're coming up on the end here, so just please bear with me as we run through these last 2 sites and recommendations. Here we're going to touch on the Shaker Heights Middle School, the largest of all the sites at 33 acres. We know that this school site is being utilized as the current middle school, and then eventually will be utilized by all the elementary schools as a transition space as the school facilities plan is underway and gets implemented over the next couple of years. So the key sort of element in here with this site is, although it's the biggest site and provides a lot of opportunities, we know that this main site may not be available for 10 or more years to really think about when and how some of these recommendations could take place or be implemented. So the first option, sort of corresponding with the recommendations that you saw at Thornton, this option really focuses on, outdoor recreation, keeping the pool and rink where they currently stand, and really focusing on and adding additional recreation amenities at this site. Starting to the east along West Belvoir Oval, we've discussed keeping the fields as they currently stand. There's the football field, the two baseball fields, and the field hockey field on the corner. Keeping those as is, renovating them as needed, but really utilizing those as they currently stand. Moving to the west, one of the things we suggested is, again, looking to sort of maximize the ability to play, sports year round in a lot of different ways, in a lot of flexibility, was to remove the existing field and track and replace it with a regulation side multi-purpose turf field that can be utilized for the community for different sporting events and different teams. As part of that, one of the things we looked at was renovating the middle school gymnasium, the far east gym, keeping that building, renovating to include, additional locker rooms, public restrooms, potential concessions or admissions for games or ticketing for events being held at that field adjacent to it, but then also keeping that, internal gymnasium there for, whether it's gym events or also staging or other elements for inclement weather that may pop up, and really utilizing not only the existing middle school building, for what its current uses are with the gym, but then also providing it as being an amenity building for this sort of larger park, as people visit it and sort of, different activations happening. Moving a little bit to the west, the idea here is to add additional youth sports fields in and around the community here to sort of maximize our ability to provide space for t-ball, coach pitch, 4-on-4 soccer, or other sort of large scale full-size soccer fields for practice and or games. And then in addition to that, moving further west, adding a new destination playground and pavilion and community gathering space for the entire community, and really creating a space for everybody to go and gather and play. As part of this site, what we've also have looked at is to the area north of Shaker Boulevard, the place, most where the existing median trail currently resides and where some of the existing soccer fields reside. So what we've looked at here is the opportunity to add a dog park along the RTA Green Line tracks, in addition to additional courts, including basketball, tennis, and pickleball, where the current existing median fields and soccer fields reside. The second option for the middle school, similar to the first option, keeps a lot of those amenities north of the meeting or north of Shaker Boulevard, adjacent to the meeting trail, the same. So maintaining the location for the dog park, adding additional pickleball, tennis, or basketball in that location as well. And again, this site plan option also maintains the upper fields as they currently stand along West Belvoir Oval to the east. Here, what we've done is also look at the opportunity of maximizing, that turf field options, building both an upper field where the current turf, resides, or the current track resides, and then also a lower turf field where the existing middle school gym currently resides. And then moving to the west, sort of reconfiguring that layout, and instead of having additional fields and a destination playground, this option coincides with the Thornton Park option 2, and really focuses on, do we move the pool facility here, pair that with a large recreation center, and so have this sort of indoor and outdoor aquatics tied into a large recreation center that we see in a lot of other communities that are doing in similar sort of fashion. As part of this, one of the things we've also looked at is to try to create this sort of campus environment, utilizing the rec center and the Bertram Woods Library as one sort of community space. So with that, one of the things we've explored is the opportunity to close Fayette Road from through traffic to Warrensville Road, still maintaining one-way access in and to the site from Shaker Boulevard for those traveling from the west, but not having the sort of signalized intersection at that corner of Fayette, to get you access onto Warrensville Center Road. So here you can see the two options side by side. The option on the left really focusing on that outdoor recreation with a renovated middle school gymnasium building as sort of that central hub to provide, some of those additional facilities like public restrooms for all the different activation and, events that could be happening there during the day. And then the option on the right, sort of exploring this idea of creating a large recreation center with a potential indoor-outdoor pool facility as part of that, utilizing the sort of western edge of the site to create that campus that's really accessible for, visitors from Warrensville Road and the RTA transit station there on the Green Line. So this will be our last poll, and Kara's going to pop it up. And again, just really excited to get your feedback and your thoughts on which options you prefer.
Like we got about half the people filled it out so far. Give it another few seconds, few seconds. Another 5 to 10 seconds, people. Last call. Looks like most of our people have weighed in on this one. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Okay, so 7 out of 17 preferred the outdoor recreation with amenity building, and 10 out of 17 preferred a large recreation center with an outdoor pool.
Great. Thanks, Kara, and thanks for everybody for participating. Really exciting to see how everybody feels about these sites as if potentially the first time ever viewing some of these recommendations. The last site I'm going to touch on really quickly here before we wrap up is Hildana Park. Based on the community feedback, as I mentioned, that we gathered through the process, we also wanted to take a look at recommendations to Hildana Park. It's a small park along Chagrin Boulevard. If you don't know, it's almost just across the street from the soccer field and the library, but provides a great opportunity for additional neighborhood amenities for the Moreland neighborhood, and really wanted to take a look at how this site fits in with some of the other park recommendations as part of this plan. And one of the key elements that's happening here is the city is working to develop a new public art feast that reflects the Moreland neighborhood, and really looking at updating some of the recommendations and some of the existing facilities that happen here at Hildana. So one of the things we were looking at here is also, where that new public art could be located, what that's still being determined, but is there opportunities to create multiple public art locations, whether it's in the existing plaza or scattered around the site. Other recommendations including a new loop trail to sort of connect the existing trails to really provide a nice walkable experience, in addition to adding new trees and landscaping to sort of shield the plaza space and activity space from Chagrin Boulevard, while upgrading the existing pathways, resurfacing the existing trails, and also looking at providing new benches and new sort of seating areas and picnic areas for people to gather to go correspond with the Little Free Library and other sort of exciting things that are happening at Hildana Park. So that wraps up, the quick breakdown of these sites. As mentioned multiple times, we were having an in-person meeting on Wednesday that will really also allow you to get into more detail and view these site plans in person on big boards in and around the room, and really gives you the opportunity to review the design concepts for each site, to ask us additional questions. So we really hope you join us on Wednesday in-person meeting at Stephanie Chubbs Jones building. One of the things we'll do on this meeting as well is allow you to vote again on your preferred option, but then also leave additional comments and feedback. And one of the other exciting things we're going to do at this meeting is we try to make them as active as possible. We're going to create a a prioritization activity to really sort of allow visitors and attendees to show us how they would spend funds on some of the suggested recreation improvements that you've seen here on these 4 and 5 sites throughout the city of Shaker. So what's next after that public meeting on Wednesday? We will share out a citywide questionnaire to help, again, prioritize some of the needs and some of the suggestions here based on what people feel is important. We will refine and finalize our recommendations based on the feedback that you've given here today, based on the feedback that we've received, from our, project team and advisory group, and then also from the feedback we expect to and are looking forward to receiving on Wednesday at the public meeting. As part of the final plan recommendations, we'll start to develop estimated cost and phasing plans from those, updated and finalized plans. And then, as Cullen mentioned, sometime late winter, early spring, we will deliver the final recreation strategic plan to the city of Shaker Heights. So with that, I thank you all for attending. We're going to pause here for a second to have our Q&A answer session. As Kara mentioned, I think you need to please post your questions into the question and answer session, and we will answer them accordingly if you have any questions.
Okay,
Michael, you
great.
could stop sharing your screen, Michael. And I put my contact information as well as a link to the prioritization activity in the chat.
Okay, do we want to answer some questions now?
Sure. Why don't I'll go through the questions.
Oh, I can do
Oh,
that and
okay,
answer them
okay.
if it's okay.
Great. Thanks, Jess.
So we answered a couple that you can see already previously answered, typed. We have a question about if there'll be a performance space at this location. I think you're talking about the middle school once the school is taken down, or is this only for people who participate in sports? The plan is that the schools in their Woodbury Middle Years campus will be constructing a 1,000 seat auditorium, and that will replace what is here at the middle school. There will be, if there is a community recreation center built, other type of things, art classes, other type of performance classes. There may not be a large space, but that is still to be determined. Another question we had talked about providing indoor field amenities and using a temporary inflatable dome. And that has not been explored. The idea has come up and we've discussed it, but it has not thoroughly been explored. And if we were to explore that, we would be looking at some kind of field that, could be used year round, but we haven't really looked at that yet. Question about the outdoor pool, if it will be for swimmers or family recreation, and it will certainly be for both. We, again, have not designed any new amenities, and this process is giving us an idea of what people are looking for. But there are family-friendly features that have been asked for, such as zero-depth entry, family changing rooms, things like that are more family-friendly that still would keep lap lanes for swimmers. And what else do we have? Oh, someone who just says they like the alternative use for the bus garage location. So we have certainly communicated with the schools about the bus garage, and we continue to have those conversations.
So there's a few more that have come back in. I'm just going to back up real quick. The question about the performance space and will this be for people who participate only in sports? No, we've heard from a lot of people that they want activity rooms where we can teach classes or have, activities that aren't sports related. So the sort of program areas will have opportunities for non-sports recreation. Going back to some of the new questions that came in. How is it being coordinated with the schools? I think Joyce answered that, and that there's a constant coordination through the Forward Together process about how programming will be handled. And one of the members of the school administration has been on our team that's guiding this. Are destination playgrounds planned at each site, or will that be adjusted based on final plans? Well, we're waiting to hear what people are saying about whether they want a destination playground. There was an option for a sort of, typical playground or a not oversized playground, and then options for destination playground. So we'll see what people's priorities are as they go through that prioritization exercise. The other thing I will say is that you were able to sort of vote on the plans as is, but at the meeting on Wednesday evening, there's the opportunity to give comments on those, right? So like if you like option 1, but wish it had something from option 2 on it or something else, there's the opportunity on Wednesday to give a little more detailed, granular comments on that.
And can I just expand on that one, Kara?
Sure, please.
So we're looking, I think they may be commenting on the fact that a destination playground is maybe shown at a couple of sites. Typically, for a community of this size, we would identify one location for a destination playground. What we're looking to kind of tease out with this process is where is the best location, if that's a truly a desire. And if it's not, each of those sites still have room for a traditional playground or maybe an accessible playground. So this is the phase to really kind of share that type of feedback and what you'd like to see.
Thanks. I feel like I'm going to give a last call for comments or for questions here. And again, I can encourage you to attend that meeting Wednesday at STJ at 6:30 p.m. And again, you'll get the option to vote on the two, or to share your preferences for each of the 2 options, and then your priority for recreation investments. I am dropping again the prioritization exercise, the online prioritization exercise, into the chat. And that's something you could click on and do after this meeting is over. I'm not seeing any more questions. Yep. You can use a QR code too with your phone. It's very phone friendly as well. And it's a short exercise, but it makes you kind of figure out what your priorities are. We can't do it all, unfortunately. And so this helps you kind of think and, about how you prioritize what your needs are. We have one more question. Were the Nature Center, Doan Creek, and Sewer District involved in this discussion? Oh, looks like Joyce is.
Oh, I'll just answer that live. I was going to type, not at this time, and that's because this plan is focused on 4 sites or now 5 sites with Hildana. But we are in discussions with the Nature Center about other type of recreation opportunities in the city. So this can certainly be wrapped into those other discussions.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to take a second to address the comment, Cindy, that you put in. Great point, heard. We have been in other conversations in other spaces about that. And that fee structure will have a lot to do with what is there, but I don't imagine that everything will be fee-based. So once we know what those things are, what will be built, we'll be able to see how it can be used to address the specific concern that you brought up. But absolutely, we're on top of that.
We encourage you to go to the website, encourage you to share the questionnaire with your friends, family, and neighbors.